All right. Well, good morning, everybody. This is a new time for us. We decided at our last coffee meeting, which most of you were at, that we were going to try a 9 a.m. Start time on Thursdays and see if we could kind of start our day instead of doing it at 2 p.m. So we're excited to start this. And a quick announcement, next Thursday will be our happy hour. We did change that as well. So we're going 4 to 6 next Thursday. I'll post about that later on today and make that announcement. So if you could just do me a favor and just share that with as many people as possible. We'll be at cover 3. You could take the flyer and share that as well. So today I was thinking about, what do I want to share with everybody? And I kind of want to open it up to you guys and talk about where your business is at regarding time management, lead generation management, and social media plan and execution, because those are like the main things that my business is around. Your business might look a little bit different, but I want to kind of talk about these topics, and I want to make sure that y'all are not afraid to turn on your mic at any point. In fact, I'm going to ask you questions and kind of go around the room and just kind of see where you're at with each one of those and what you are doing to manage those things. Really, it comes down to like managing these 3 topics. So I want to talk to you about what's going on with the market in your world. I know that I see people closing a bunch of deals, a lot of things going on. I know the whole talk was like, man, the market is really heating up. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now nobody's doing anything. It's kind of my experience. I started off the year and it was just like, holy crap, like everybody's coming out of the woodwork and it's exciting and everything's going to be great. And then all of a sudden just kind of stalled. What are y'all experience? I know Val's crushing it. I feel like she's under contract every single week with a new property. Yeah, Val, talk to us about what's going on with your business. What do you think is going on with the market right now?
Give me 2 seconds. I'm about to order coffee, and then I promise I'll tell you all the things. I'm so
Perfect.
sorry.
Now
Bad
that
time.
sounds great. Cassie, talk to us a little bit about what's going on in your business. I know that you've been pretty active with open houses and doing all that. I actually visited you last week with all your pinwheels. Talk to us about what you're seeing in the market, in your opinion.
Oh, my pinwheels. So yeah, for open houses, I blast signage everywhere, and then if they don't see the signage, they see my pinwheels everywhere. So um the pinwheels that lead to the house. So the way I've been really getting leads is I haven't been doing the cold calling or the door knocking. That's just absolutely not me. And so I like to go out and, do open houses. I do open houses, try to do them once a weekend, at the very least. Sometimes there's been 2. I've done actually 2 open houses where they were next door to each other. So I called it the dual open house. So I was jumping back and forth between the 2 homes. But I really kind of try to stay active on the open houses. And I've been really, getting a lot of good leads from it. The one that I did 2 weeks ago, I got about 5 leads from it. So that was big. The one last weekend was super, super slow. So I only got 1 lead, but 1 lead is more than I had the day before. So I really try to focus my energy now towards those open houses, but I'm also very particular at where and what times I do the open houses. The where is, of course, not too many turns, um, in a desirable location and in a desirable home. That way when I'm promoting it, it looks flashy and nice to where people want to go and look at it.
Sure.
So that's just kind of where I've been lately. And it's brought me pretty good success so far.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, I think whatever you're doing, and we hear this a lot, is stick with it for at least 3 months. You got to kind of commit to it, long term, and everything will work if you work it. So I appreciate you sharing that. Best of luck with the leads that you've been getting, and
Thank you.
continued success.
I have a question for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what times do you like to host your open houses, and have you found a time that works better?
So I typically do from on Saturdays, I do from 12 to 4. we typically don't see any action until around the last hour and a half.
Mhm.
But I like to give that time. So my idea is I'm trying to get people while they're out and about for lunch, or just finishing their morning errands, and that's where they're seeing it. I don't like to do early morning ones because I feel like nobody's really awake or wanting to go view houses early. On Sunday, you have to think of the church crowd. So church usually gets out, 10, 11, and sometimes, after lunch, it's 12. So on Sundays, I do from typically 1 to 4, just so that way I'm catching the out of church crowds.
Oh, that's cool. Do you find that most of the people visiting saw it on Zillow or Realtor.com, or are they coming because of your signs,
Signs.
or both?
I haven't gotten
Signs.
one lead from any of the marketing because usually I market the ton out of it, all over all the week prior, leading up to, and I don't get all I get hear back is just signage, 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 and
Okay.
so that's where my little pinwheels come in, because if in those in between open house signs, like I have pinwheels on my open house signs, and in between the open house signs, I like shove pinwheels in the ground so people know that they're going the right way.
Oh, wow.
So, but yeah, it's just really just the signage that's really attracting them.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
Awesome. Thanks.
absolutely. I love it. Thanks, Mark, for jumping in. If anybody has questions with anybody that's doing anything, feel free to turn on your mic, jump in. Nobody's going to be offended here. Thanks for joining us, Brian Edwards from the DFW area. Hey, Brian, how's the market up there? What are y'all seeing as far as lots of activity? Has it kind of cooled off? I feel like it's kind of going back and forth.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's getting ready to ramp up here for the
Yeah.
spring. It won't be as big as normal, but we're seeing it heat up a little bit, seeing more multiple offers, a little bit more consistently. It just depends on the listing.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I was telling a buyer recently, is like, if it's a great looking house at a great price, it's probably going to have multiple offers. And I think it was Ricky Caruth that I saw on Instagram yesterday. Somebody said, and I think there's a NAR statistic, that this is going to be like the third best year for real estate. And compared to, obviously, the last 2 years have been high production volume, but they say that this is still going to be a pretty good year overall. So yeah, I definitely see there's a lot more interest. But then there's that hesitation is what I'm experiencing. They're like, hey, I'm interested, but I'm questioning. And it's like, come on, it's time to go. So
Hey, Tony, I don't know if I'm putting Mark Hill on the spot, but it seemed like he told me that their team has a lot more leads than they have had in the last few months. So
yeah.
I don't know if a mortgage perspective would be different or not.
Yeah, Mark, what are you seeing on that end?
Hey, everybody.
Good morning.
We have definitely seen an uptick of leads across the board, that's for sure. And some of that is just the fact that we're in March, getting into the busier buying season. Everybody, there was a little teaser there when rates dropped in January or February, and then they went back up. And so it's been very volatile from a rate perspective. And I think when they went back up, that's what kind of slowed things down a little bit overall. But I think that because the buying season's coming up, that it's like what Brian said, it's going to be, I think the anticipation is that it's going to be a little bit slower than a normal spring, but it's definitely going to pick up from where it is now. And, they were just saying rates were going to continue to drop very steadily, and it's been all over the place. And yesterday the Fed did another little rate hike, and rates responded super positively. I mean, we dropped across the board. Mortgage rates dropped over a quarter point after the Fed news, which is sometimes confusing to people, but basically that meeting kind of showed that they thought that inflation was being held at bay just a little bit. And so that makes the markets in the mortgage world respond really positively. even the article I was just reading this morning, and the MBS highway update hasn't come out yet. Just for fun, it only takes a few minutes. If later in the call it comes out, I would love to share that with y'all to see what I watch every morning. But they were just, even on Mortgage News Daily, they're like, well, we don't really know why the rates dropped so much, but here's some couple reasons. But anyway, what we're seeing is increased leads. Rates are probably going to trickle down a tiny bit, but not make massive improvements or anything. And there's a possible improvement in May, which would be good timing for when the market's really hot anyway.
And Mark, can you correct me on this? And I might be wrong, and this might just be kind of like a wishful guess. But when the rates first started going up last summer, people went into this shock, and then they're like, oh, we're just going to wait till the rates come down. And even as much as we preached that they're not going to come back down to the twos and maybe even threes, they were hopeful. But now I feel like people are now getting used to the fact that this is the normal. And now they're like realizing, okay, I've waited a year and it's not doing anything. So now I feel like, we're just going to have to go with it. Is that kind of what you're seeing too, as far as on the like lending side, is that people are just like accepting the fact that the rates are what they are and they're not going to keep holding on to it anymore?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I totally agree with that. And in the message coming out from not only the mortgage world, but from the real estate world has changed over time to really help educate everybody. And the fact that people have to buy and sell houses, they have to move. There's a lot of reasons why that's going to happen. And we're in a market here in Texas and San Antonio here specifically where inventory is really tight. So I think that the fact that people have gotten used to it is going to just help the market go on its normal way in the spring. So the message overall is, now it's just an accepted thing that you're going to refinance probably in a year or so, or a year or two. And most lenders are offering like no fee refinances, which makes it about half the cost. So when we talk to buyers, we say, marry the house, date the rate. You're going to be able to affect the rate later. But you got to do what you got to do. And it's always a good time to get into investing in real estate, because that same house is only going to be more expensive next year, and homes still are
Right.
appreciating. So yeah, I agree with you. And that's kind of my take on it.
Okay. Thank
Cool.
you.
That's a great insight, Mark. I appreciate it. And yeah, if you do see that report pop up in the next 45 minutes, please let us know and jump in. So, going back to, we have to focus on controlling what we can control. Right. We have no control over prices really. And we don't have control over interest rates and are they ready to buy? Are they not ready to buy? I like to dangle the carrot in front of somebody. Like I have a qualified buyer right now, and we wrote up an offer and he just decided at the last minute that he didn't want to spend that much. So he didn't sign. So, he's kind of looking around, questioning it. And I just kind of explained to him exactly what we've been talking about yesterday. It's like, look, this is a good time to buy. Interest rates are high, but the prices are a little bit lower. And you can get, sometimes under market value or under at least asking price a lot of times. So now he's like, okay, yeah, send me those properties again. You have a point. So control what you can control. And then let's get into today's topics of time management, lead generation. And so far, I love what's going on today. I do not want to dominate this conversation. I want y'all's voices to be heard. So my first question is, how is your time management on a daily basis, whether that's your personal life, your business life, everything, all encompassing? Do you feel, how would you rate on a scale of 1 to 10 your time management? Anybody want to jump in first before I start calling names?
I don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I'm gonna more than tell you how mine is, because mine sucks right now.
Yeah.
Tell you that in the 8 years I've been doing this, my pipeline and my business success directly correlates with my time management. I mean, I think we all know that, but I'm just telling you because of some things that have gone on in the last few months for me, actually going back to last year when I decided to become a broker, God only knows why. And then I decided not to be a broker. Just coming out of that, just I've been all over the place. And then I've had some personal stuff with my mom. So, I mean, it just, Tony, you know this because we talk all the time, but my business completely dried up, like completely.
Yeah.
Just because I wasn't really blocking and time management. And I'm usually pretty good with that. So in the past, I've been very strategic with that. And it's been, you know, pretty good.
Yeah.
And then when I don't, it just, a deal might come, a deal might not come. So I think, you know, just like we were talking about with anything you do, we were talking about, Casey was talking about the open houses. If you're just consistent with something and you're purposeful about it and you manage your time and you're active, like time management is about action. It just makes a huge difference. So mine has not been good in the last year, and it completely shows. That's why, and we never did hear from Val, but that's why you see Val with a lot of deals. She's super active, doing a whole lot of stuff. So
Yep.
I know it's
Yeah.
just fundamentals. It's just the fundamentals of what we do, but it's true. I mean, if you're active and you're purposeful and you manage your time, and then you're going to be busy. And if you don't, like I haven't, then you're not. So I'm sorry, Val, were you going to say something?
Well, no, I was just gonna say, piggyback off of that, like when I first started, I don't have like the secret ingredient, but I can tell you what I've done differently. And a lot of it is because of what Mark Chambers has just said and taught me. Is the two things that I've done differently between last year and this year, is I've gotten super organized. I mean, every single human that I've heard say, oh, I'm thinking of, or I may, or I want anything real estate, they're on a list. As they're talking, I type their information in on my phone, and then I start connecting with them. And I put them on, a list. I have their phone number, and then I've just been way more organized than I've ever been. And then I've also been much more active with my sphere. And, I've been trying to do it in a really organic way. So I have, we go to trivia more now, which to me, it's a little stressful. We've got kids at home, and I feel like I have a lot of work to do, especially at night because of my kids' schedule, that I have to do a lot of things in the evening. But I'm like, I have to go and connect with these people. And from those connections, I've had lots of those particular friends that are like, we are planning on moving. Can you be our realtor? And it's, I go work out with another group of ladies. I try to stay connected to my sphere and really touch them, which I did not do as much years past. And I certainly wasn't as organized. And that's made the difference for me. My April, as long as everything closes and is going to be huge for me, and so I think that for me, that's the difference. I don't know if it's the magic formula, and I don't know if that's really truly made the difference, but I can tell you that is what I've done differently.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And so many ways of just taking action. I remember when I was a little slow at the very beginning of my career. And even now, I'll be honest, my past several months have been pretty slow, but I've upped my action quite a bit since January. So my pipeline looks pretty good. It's just like, okay, when are these people closing? Like, let's get this going. And I'll give you a little bit of insight here in a second. But going back to time management, which obviously is like making time to work your business in some sort of way. All right. Anybody else want to talk about how they manage their time? I'll show you here in a second kind of what I do and what I've kind of little tricks that I've taken on that have helped me a little bit.
So Mark and Tony, I know you guys are both like love the calendar and live by the calendar, but it seems like the calendar is like the bane of my existence. For me to actually just sit down and put it in the calendar, it is not just an afterthought, it's the afterthought. And it's just like, how do I get myself, I guess, at this point to put it in a calendar, because it's just like I basically live off of, okay, what's coming next, and basically snapshot pictures instead of putting it in my calendar. So it's just I'm trying to figure out that balance, because it's just like that is one thing I am not proficient at all.
Yeah,
I
we're
think I can speak to that too. I
yeah,
think
go for it.
I'm actually a lot that way. Like Mark Kell could tell you that. I'm a person that I do have a calendar and I do block times for stuff, but I'm a person like Mark. I don't want to speak for you and overstate who you are, but Mark's the type of person, I'm exaggerating, that will put like 8:57. I'm going to do my biceps, you know, and 8:58. And I'm the kind of person that like if I legislate something that specifically, then something about my inner self just breaks it. It's just like I just rebel. So what I've started
Right.
doing is blocking chunks of time and giving myself freedom within that time to be naughty, if you will, but just to make sure I get 2 or 3 things done. So look, like literally on my calendar, when I really block it, I'll have a chunk in the middle of the day, like around lunchtime or something. It's just me and lunch, and you know, sometimes I'll hit some to-do list stuff. But I'm just like you in that regard. The thing about what you described, though, is you're reacting to what comes, and you have to kind of shift a little bit to being proactive and determining your day without just reacting to, oops, I got an inspection. Oops, something just came up, an email I got to deal with. You know, you got to get a little bit more purposeful
Ahead of
in
it.
just trying to hit. Yeah. So what I would recommend is just giving yourself chunks that are open for what you need, but making sure that 2 or 3 actions per day, just say start with 2 that we call our money making actions. Let's say you
Yes.
need to put out a newsletter to your sphere, I don't know, whatever it would be. Just, you know, on that day, whenever you do it in the chunk of time that you've given yourself, you're just going to bite the bullet and get that action done. And then you can be reactive the rest of the day. And, you know, slowly you begin to be more like proactive. That's what helped me a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
that's great stuff right there. I would say that I find myself kind of in between Mark and Mark. So this one, this slide right here, it's a quick little video that I just took. And I'm not like obsessed with it. I'm not like super strict with it. And I think there's a little bit of music. So let me just show you what I do here in my alarm setting. I wake up at 5 a.m. and I go to the gym at 6. By the time I get home from the gym, it's about 7:10 or whatever. And I know that every morning at 7:30 is pretty much that's time to get in the shower. All right. So, and get ready. So between like 7:10 and 7:30, I've made it to where it's like quiet time. I read a chapter of the Bible. I do a little prayer. And then I actually pull up my phone and my calendar for the day and I fill in the white space. And sometimes it's like, oh, look, my afternoon is wide open. I'm just going to put a 3-hour work block in there, you know, or a 2-hour work block, or I got this showing coming up. So I'll show you that here in a second, but this is kind of what it looks like. And then at 8 o'clock, I'm done getting ready. And like sometimes I'm planning the day, sometimes I'm making my coffee. This morning was I made my coffee at 8 a.m. and I sat down and made this slideshow to get ready for this, right? So it does kind of change from day to day. I haven't done my social media post yet because, you know, I was preparing for this. So I'll do it. Sometimes I move that around, but this is kind of what that I'll take up my time. Here you kind of see like 9:30, I come back to social media and I do interactions. This is like an ideal situation if there's like no distractions to my day. If I'm just having like a full work day with like no appointments in the way. And then like really I sit down 10 to 12 and I pull up my hot warm list and I go, okay, who needs what and how can I take them to the next step closer to the deal? All right. And then at noon I go to lunch and I try to come back and do some work. And then I have like a night routine that I need a reminder of. So does anybody do anything like that sets alarms? Real quick before I turn that over, what I found yesterday is I was up and I had to leave the house for an appointment about 9 o'clock. So I sat down to do my social media stuff and it was like 8:10. So I just said, "Hey Siri, set an alarm for 8:50." And it sets an alarm. And then now I'm focusing on my social media, not thinking anything else. Knock this out, knock this out, knock this out. And then all of a sudden that alarm goes off and I'm like, oh, got to switch to doing something else. So that's helped me. Is anybody like that? It's okay if you're not. I'm just wondering if anybody else is kind of does something similar. Brian's laughing. He probably thinks that's crazy.
No, I'm laughing because I'm so terrible at it.
Oh no! Trust me, I am not perfect by any means. I'm not like this is what I do every single day. Blah blah. I mean, that's my goal, right? That's
Yeah.
if nothing comes up, obviously I have stuff to catch up on. So yeah.
What I found is, when I'm working with clients like buyers, especially, man, then I have to make sure I have a ton of flexibility
Mm-hmm.
in my schedule because you got to be ready to drop everything and go.
Yeah.
And it's when you don't have that you need to be strict on your calendar so that you're productive.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And that I think going back to Ricky Cruz, I love his stuff. He says, he goes, I'm jealous of new agents because they have all the time in the world to prospect. Right. Like that. They don't have business running around, showing buyers, getting listing up, doing these things. He's like, all you need to do is prospect all day, every day, and it's like, yeah, that is true in a way.
That's so true, because as soon as you get busy, then you're focused on the busy and you stop doing the things that got you busy. And then all of a sudden things dry up.
Yeah.
But, I was going to chime in and say, I think everybody's going to work a little different because we all have different personalities, and you do have to try different things and fail at them to like get to where you need to be. I'm not good at time blocking for, I think, lots of reasons. I'm really organized, but I'm not good at time blocking because things just pop up. So what I found that works really great for me is that I have made myself a checklist. I'm techie, so I've made myself a checklist on Google Docs and Google Forms. And every time I think of something, I put it there. And as soon as I check, the box, it scratches it off for me. And it's super satisfying and it keeps me in line. And so I know what I need to do that day. But I can do it whenever I find the time. And so far that's worked for me. That's not going to work for everybody, but just my suggestion would be, I guess, keep trying different things that you hear. And then once you start feeling like, okay, this kind of works for me, you develop that. Cause I think all of us are going to do it a little bit differently, but we can all be just as successful as long as we find something.
Yeah.
I agree with that. As Tony was showing his thing, I was just thinking that makes me tired just looking at it.
Right?
Yeah.
And I just, so in my mind, but the point to that is it really works for him.
This makes
And like,
me
I
more
know,
tired.
yeah. And so for me, I just have to be looser about it than that and make kind of like what Val said. I do have those things written down, and there are certain things that I know have to get done today. They have to. So, but I like the flexibility of, when they're going to be done. And I'm the type that if I started doing something with social media, and the alarm went off, I'd be, but wait, I'm just now into it, type thing. But the point of it is lots of different things work for lots of different people, depending on your personality and what your lifestyle is.
Yep, absolutely. Find something that works for you. Try it. I mean, you don't know what's going to work for you until you start trying it. I saw another thing on social media that like, okay, you're in your 30s and you don't know what to do with your life. Be curious about everything. Try this, try that, and find your passion by being curious. So yeah, this is a time blocking, and again, obviously this looks very overwhelming, but I could like turn off things and simplify. I've just personally made the red my real estate stuff, right? So I can go in here and all my greens is my birthday campaign. So last week I had, a past student that I still close to. It was his birthday. This is my cousin's birthday, my aunt's birthday. So these are reminders to reach out to them that helped me. And I just kind of took some time. And this is going back to Cassie there is, it does take a little bit of time to, like, if you wanted to do something like this, you got to kind of sit down and do it. I remember like scheduling all of the happy hours and coffees for, our productive agent. And it didn't take me that long, but I went month by month and I said, okay, we're going to do it here and we're going to do it here, and plugged them in and went to the next month and picked the dates. So it takes a little bit of time to do that. But once it's there, Josh Sigmund talks about, be a slave to your calendar. If it's not on your calendar, it won't get done. And for whatever reason, that's my personality. Like, and you can see as I zoom in here, because it does get cluttered, right? I look at this and go like, oh my goodness. But then I'll just go, okay, what's going on this week and this day? All right. So you can see that I had the EXP recognition event kind of blocked off all day, that I went to, a listing appointment, and then I plug in my lunches. Purple is, personal stuff, right? And dinners. So I'm doing the 75 hard, and I'm going, okay, when am I going to do my reading? So I'm not done here. So like at 10 o'clock, we're going to wrap up here. And then it's like, okay, from 10 to 12, I kind of have a 2-hour block, right? And another thing that is white space on your calendar is the devil. And for me personally, this might not work for you, but like you can see, for the most part, this was pretty filled in, right? And I will say, where's the white space on here? Quite a bit of white space on Thursday. And I had 2 great meetings. And I actually had a showing. So I had 2 great meetings that really moved the needle and pushed my attraction business forward. But as far as sales business, I didn't do a whole lot. And that kind of is a reflection for my schedule, and a reflection on my greatness tracker, which we've talked about before. So this is something that I do. Like when I wake up, I will go in, and I haven't done it today because I had to jump right into preparing for this. But pretty much after this, I'm going to fill in these blank spots and go, okay, I'm going to go visit that place. And then, okay, what can I do here? Okay, when am I going to do dinner? When am I going to do my walk? When am I picking up my daughter? And it just helps remind me of that. Like, for instance, if I wanted to do my walk here, what I like to do, and it works for me, is I'll just title it that, and it's the personal calendar. And then I like to give myself a 10-minute warning and 0 minutes. So at 10 minutes before 6 o'clock, it's going to remind me, hey, in 10 minutes, you're supposed to go for that walk. And then at the time of the walk, it's like, yep, it's time to go, and so for whatever reason, that's my personality, and I save it, and it's there, so I know that seems overwhelming to some, but it kind of works for me. So just something that I wanted to share. And then obviously I also love that, you go, oh, that needs to move around. Oh, we're actually going to do that tomorrow, and you can drag it around and have that flexibility of going, oh, you know what? It's not a major priority. It just needs to be deleted because I got something else that came up, so that's kind of how I do it. Any questions about that? Any thoughts?
Well, so ever since I started real estate, because I've only been in real estate for a year, and you hear these exact 2 quotes, and I think maybe this is the reason why I have this huge disconnect with the calendar. And I work with my good friend Laura quite often, and she's like, she thinks that, she's like, you stress out about trying to fill every minute of every day and that white space. She's like, but you get so focused on trying to fill that out that it's become basically a whole new chore or a job just to ensure that the white space is filled. She's like, stop focusing. For me, I need to stop focusing on the white space and focus on the tasks that I do need to get done and fit them in to the day, instead of saying, okay, from 8:30 to 9, I'm going to do this. From 9 to this, I'm going to do this. So the time blocking for me isn't necessarily, I think that what causes me more stress. I think I'm more on the Val side of, these are what I need to get done today, so let me just check them off as I get them done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not disagreeing with that at all. And going back to whatever works for you, what works for you. There's another thing called day blocking that Agent Rise talks about. And like, for instance, on Wednesdays, I'm supposed to get my weekly email out, and Thursdays, they talk about like setting up the open house or whatever. So it's not necessarily like, oh my God, because it can get stressful sometimes if that's your personality. Like, oh my God, I only got 5 of the 7 things done. It wasn't a great day. It's like, I'll tell you what, everything that we're talking about here, if you do 50%, even if you do 30 to 40% of what you put out for the day, you're still doing a lot better than majority of the agents out there. So finding like those 2-3 things that's like, hey, I got to get these things done. And Andy Frisella says 5 things. Says once I do those 5 things, it might take me like, I might be done by 11 a.m. and then I go do whatever I want to do the rest of the day. But those 5 things that I put on my to-do list for that day, are going to move the needle. And so, yeah, it just depends on what works for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
It's pretty cool. Check out Win the Day. If you just type in YouTube Win the Day, Andy Frisella, you might hear some curse words, but he has a good description of like, hey, 5 things that are going to move the needle, move your business forward, move you forward. And you do those things, you won the day, and the rest of the day is yours to do whatever you want. And it works. It's pretty successful. So
Thanks, Tony.
yeah, for sure. So lead generation, what do y'all do for lead generation? And I love asking this question to agents. And what's the number one answer that everybody gives? What do you think, Brian? You've been in the business a while. When you ask agents, hey man, what do you do for lead generation? What would you say is probably the number one answer that most people say?
Most people say nothing.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely up there for sure. Every time I ask people, because I'm always curious, I'm like, man, that's awesome. You closed a deal. How did you get that deal? How did you meet that person? What is it? And of course, majority of the time, and like it should be, it's usually, oh, they're my sphere, or oh, they're a referral, or oh, and I'm like, I'm going to take it another step forward. Is okay, great, they're in your sphere, but have you been in contact with them? Like, have you been proactive of talking to them, or they just randomly reached out to you? And why did they reach out to you? So I can, one of my most recent leads, random emailed me, and he was like, yeah, my daughter, Amanda Escobar, recommended that I reach out to you. And I'm like, who in the hell is Amanda Escobar? All right. I have no clue who this is. I looked up on Facebook, didn't recognize her. I had to go, we were friends, and like, there's like 60 mutual friends. I'm like, obviously this is Amanda Hill. And she got married. I went all the way back to like her first profile picture, and it was her in a Churchill band jacket. And I'm pretty sure she graduated even before I started teaching. So I think I was like student teaching and helping the marching band while in college. And I'm like, how in the world did she think of me? I've never reached out to her. We're friends on Facebook. So it had to have been social media. Like, that's the only way possible that she saw my social media post, whatever it was, and she thought of me. So do y'all do different things for lead generation, or is it mostly Sphere? And if it is Sphere, what are you doing with your Sphere to generate that business? Brian, I'm going to open it up to you.
Okay. All of my business is Sphere.
Yeah.
And I've just been really good at keeping in touch with them and building it. So what I've been working on the last year or so is trying to expand that to increase that Sphere. And man, the best thing I ever did was this coaching that works with video emails and video texts.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I've had tremendous reaction from that.
Yeah.
It's been really good, and it's forced me to get out of my video uncomfortable zone, and come into the new century.
Sure.
And embrace that, and that's been great. And in fact, if anybody want, I'll put it in here in the chat. Melanie does this too.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually taken a break from this, but those are the coaches that do it, and it was really easy because it was all templates that are set up for you and everything. The other thing I think is important is events. And, you know, JJ, when he talks about it, he talks about loving on your people. And, you know, instead of spending money on buying leads, which I've never bought a lead, but having events is a really cool way. And they can be inexpensive and they can be big. But there's generally a good return on whatever you spend. And
Yeah.
I was at a mastermind this week, and they gave us this book. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
It's called The 2 Hour Cocktail Party,
Okay.
and it's a real easy read, and it just talks about how to throw a cocktail party for about 15 people and building relationships through something small.
Yeah.
And I've been reading it. It's actually really good, really simple.
Yeah. I like that. Well, cool. No, obviously, does anybody do anything else for lead generation besides Sphere? Because I think we're all doing Sphere. Let's see if there's anybody on this call that's doing something outside of that. I guess Casey would be, I mean, because she's doing open houses, right? That's another lead generation.
Yeah, I do open houses, but then I also do, like, you know, when I have my son's in sports. And so I just got like my sports chair marketed to me, and you know, I'm Irish, and so I hate the sun. And so I got a beach umbrella to post up there, and so I got that marketed to me too. So like on Sundays when I'm at his 3 hour baseball practices, I'm there in my Casey Chanel, you know, realtor chair and beach umbrella. And so that usually, you know, sparks up conversations with people on how's the market, what's the interest rates, whatnot, what's going on. And so, but besides that, you know, I do a lot of social media marketing. And I also do, again, like the open houses that I really try to put a lot into. I don't just, you know, decide on a house and then just go post up shop, um, and then hope for the best. You know, I market the ton out of it the week before, and again, signage galore. So that's usually how I bring in my leads, because I don't do the cold calling or the door knocking. And I've found that the mailers are just kind of been a waste of money towards on my side, as far as postage and time creating and whatnot. They haven't given me any kind of return. So, you know, open houses is really my main focus right now.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thanks for sharing. And I like the idea, and you're absolutely right. Branding stuff, like wearing a shirt that says I'm a realtor or something like that. I haven't jumped all into that, but what I do is at Starbucks, I kind of have a book that I'm reading, just laying out, and it kind of just attracts different people to go, hey, how's that book? You know, and then of course it's like a business mindset book, and it's like, oh, well, you must be in business of some sort, you know, and that's honestly how I met Brandon Taylor, you know, who's now here at EXP with us, all because I was just out and about at a Starbucks and kind of open to having conversations. Val, you got your hand raised. Should I have to share?
Yeah. So another thing that I've been trying to do, I'm volunteering a lot more, and that's getting me into different circles. So my kids are like, I just, you know, thought of it because Casey said that, you know, she's with her son at baseball games. So my kids go to, even though we don't live in Whispering Oaks, my sister does, and we go to their, we're part of their pool and we're part of their swim team in the summer. And last year I donated, you know, on behalf of my business. And so we had a little sign out there. And this year they asked me to volunteer to be in charge of that. And my husband and I were talking, we're like, I don't know, like it's just so much extra time, but I did it. I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to be the head of that. And I'm going to have to talk to a lot of people that I would not necessarily need or have to talk to or could talk to in any other way in that, in Whispering Oaks subdivision, because I don't live there. And I think it's going to open up a lot of doors. It already has. I have 2 clients that live in Whispering Oaks, and it's a really nice neighborhood. So I think volunteering and trying to kind of implant yourself in different, you know, different groups, I think might
Systems,
be,
yeah.
yeah, might be a good way. I'll let you know how it works out.
No, I think that's great. I think it's going to work out really, really well. And that kind of reminds me of like I've been going to this F45 gym, and all of a sudden, I mean, it's probably at least once a week I have one of the members friend request me, like on Instagram typically, and obviously when you friend request somebody, you're probably going to look at their profile and go like, or a neighbor. I just met a neighbor the other day. I was walking 2 days ago, and I walk around 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. when people are out in the yard, kids are playing, whatever, saying hi. I saw this guy getting golf clubs out of his car. So I was just like, hey, man, how'd you shoot today? He was startled, and I was like, oh, I play golf and this and that. So we started a conversation. I got his phone number. I sent him my business card. Just told him, hey, let's go hit some balls sometime. So now he's in my database, and just like meeting people at the gym, different things like that. That's just really kind of just growing your sphere, right? Being a part of that. Tracking it is very important. And I know this is what Val talks about, right? And I do this at a decent level. I still don't, of course, I'm like my own worst critic of it, but on the left side is like EXP stuff and attraction. But over here is my hot warm list. And pretty much what I've done is, again, like Val said, if anybody's even mentioned that they might be interested at some point, they should go on this list. All right. And I do a decent job of that. And then like right now it's kind of grown up to about 50 some odd. All right. And then down here are like some old leads that at some point they mentioned something, right? That they're not my priority. And then I go in and go, okay, my yellows are the ones that are like active right now. All right. And that I really need to focus on. And then once my yellows are taken care of, then I kind of go back to my whites and go, you know what, let me touch base with this person. You know what, let me touch base. So whenever I reach out to them, I'll mark the date that I reached out to them. And then if they're a cash deal, who their lender is, who they're talking to, and then any notes like this guy, he's doing Disney in April. He's getting married at the end of the year, living with his parents, possibly looking to move in May or June. All right. So those are just quick, because once you start adding this up and you're looking for opportunities of somebody raising their hand and you consistently add them, then you're going, oh, so these are the open house people that I met the other day. At least 2 of these are pretty solid. This person's already moved on. But I'll throw her on my email campaign, and who knows down the road what that might lead to. Doesn't hurt to grow that. So keeping track of them in some sort of way so that you don't forget about a lead. And sometimes I'll forget, so what I'll do is I'll go through my text messages and I'll like scroll back to like March 1st, and of course it's like quite a bit of text messages, and I'll start scrolling through there and I go, oh shit, I never responded to that person. Oh yeah, they mentioned something or whatever it is. And usually they're added to this list, right? Or adding them to my database or whatever it is. But it's okay if you don't do this on a daily basis. Don't feel like you're failing. But I would say maybe like once a week, like over the weekend. Sometimes I get to Monday morning and we're like, who did I talk to this weekend? Oh yeah, I forgot that I did have that conversation with them and they said this or whatever it is, and kind of make sure that you keep track of them in some sort of way.
Tony, did I see that you got a TikTok lead? How did you do that?
Random. I mean, it hasn't done much. I sent
Okay.
a search. I called him. I've talked to him a couple times. He's like, you're sending me stuff that I didn't ask for. I'm like, no, I'm sending you exactly what you asked for. It's not a great lead, but I did. Yeah, it was somebody called me and I answered the phone, and it was off of some TikTok that I posted. It was like my 7th TikTok ever that I posted.
That's so cool. I've been hoping for one of those days.
Yeah, it's random. But yeah, it happens, so I know Cassie was talking about doing the social media stuff. And we only have like about 10, 12 minutes to go here because I want to respect everybody's time. But what is your social media plan, and how would you rate that plan? All right, on a 1 to 10. Anybody want to talk about social media? Is anybody like not doing social media at all, or on a super low level?
So I do social media a ton. Like I basically flip between Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram and TikTok, but my two main are Facebook and LinkedIn.
Mhm.
But as I've been researching a lot lately, so like with Instagram, it's 3 reels and 18 posts a day in order for you to get into their algorithm.
Mm.
Whereas LinkedIn saying don't post more than 20 times a month, basically limit it to 1 post a day. Otherwise, you get basically, you look like a spam. And so then they push you to the very back. So I'm really kind of now focusing on learning what each social media, basically brand, Facebook, whatever,
Yeah.
what they need in order for your post to be successful. Otherwise, you just get lost in the fray of it all.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, there's times where I love social media, and there's times where I'm like, oh my God, do I really have to do this? And I think it's something that's kind of not necessary. I mean, obviously, you could have a very successful business and do minimal on social media. I guess the question really is, what is the purpose of your social media post? And is it working? If you're trying to become an influencer, there's definitely certain things like Cassie was just talking about that, like, hey, on this platform, you have to do X, Y, and Z. And on this other platform, you have to do A, B, and C. And that just seems exhausting to me. I think the most important purpose of my social media personally is to stay in front of my sphere. And I remember talking with Mark early on, and I was like, I am scared. I'm still scared to death to call my sphere. I don't do a very good job of it, calling them and staying in touch with them. I do emails and stuff like that, but I've noticed that most of my social media attraction is from my sphere because they saw me post something, or they saw it, or like I'm in front of them. So I'm not necessarily like gaining massive attraction and all these followers that I don't know. Most of the people on my social media are people that I know of some extent. And I think that's the most important thing. I even heard like some national people talk about this on social media that I follow, but they're like, it's more important that you are local to your people on social media rather than, oh, I have 5,000 followers across the country and world that aren't really local doing anything in your market, right? I mean, that's cool in a way, and you might pick up a random person from California that's moving or whatever, but take care of the people that are already following you and supporting you on your social media. That's just one way to do it. All right. So this is my plan. And I think it's important to have a plan because you get sometimes to go, what the hell am I going to post? Right. So you can at least fall back on this plan. That's my experience. So sometimes I try to create something new or do something different or whatever it is. But if I go, I'm not feeling very creative today, it's Monday, let me just go to Pinterest and find some Monday motivation quote and throw it up. All right. At least I put something on there. Right. And honestly, sometimes I get some of the best responses from that people be like, you have no idea that I needed to hear this today. Thank you for posting this or whatever. Or sometimes I'll do a new week, new build. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I typically do a property of the day. I've mixed it up with carousel pictures or making a video out of those pictures and making a reel. Obviously, I get like some more views on the reel, but I don't get like any interaction. I get more interaction on the pictures. I don't know. That's something that I'm going back and forth with all the time. Like, which one should I do? Which one should I not do? Friday facts, getting on video more is great. The personal post, as goofy as it was, I felt great at the time because I was pumped up on endorphins from working out. But I posted like this picture of me like, whatever on social media. And it got like the most views like out of anything that I've posted about real estate. Right. And it's like, okay, now I can reach those people and touch base with those, see how they're doing. And of course, whenever I post something with my daughter, it gets way more likes and comments and views and than any house that I'm posting up. So just mixing that up. I'm also trying to even post twice a day. I mean, if I'm on it, but that's pretty rare. I think I've only done that like a couple times. And some like, and then stories are powerful. What I personally love about stories is I love going in there going, who's watching it? Who saw it? Who watched it? Ooh, I'm friends with them. Cool. Oh, whatever. Or like, why does that guy watching it? I thought he hated me. Whatever. But so that's what I love about stories, because when you post, it doesn't really say who saw it, but I guarantee you there's people that are seeing it. Mixing a good amount of personal posts. And I'm working on going live. I was really hoping, I guarantee you by the next time we do this, I'll have this up Zoom live on the productive agent, because I think that's pretty powerful. All right. I think people are attracted to, hey, there's a live video going on. What the hell is this? Let me check it out real quick. So that's my plan. And again, I'll be honest, I probably do 50 to 60% of this. Right. So, some weeks I'm great. Some days I'm great. Some I'm on fire. And sometimes I'm like, oops, forgot about it, and moving on. But again, I try to go to this. I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm kind of opening some things up, especially with the podcast and the productive agent, trying to grow that following as well. But I do Facebook and Instagram. These are connected. And then I go to TikTok. So I'm started to do that. So I have the productive agent ones and then my personal ones. What's that? So and then I'm torn. It's like, well, I don't necessarily want to take this interview with another agent and put it on my personal page, because then all of a sudden my personal people might connect with that agent rather than me. So I'm torn on that, and I try to kind of keep them separate. But also YouTube Shorts is a great way to, I've heard, grow your YouTube following. So if you're doing a TikTok, you might as well take that same material and throw it on YouTube Shorts. It's pretty easy, pretty quick and simple. And then, yeah, I think LinkedIn is a possible missed opportunity if you're not taking this and recycling it and throwing it on LinkedIn. So like property of the days that I'm throwing up there. You think about LinkedIn, it's pretty much business people, and business people have money. And they probably wouldn't mind looking at a house compared to, hey, submit your resume here, submit your resume here, whatever they're seeing on LinkedIn. I'm not a huge LinkedIn person, but I'll throw it on there. And I guarantee you people are seeing it. I ran into 2 or 3 past students at HEB on one trip. And like everybody that I've run into recently is like, hey, I like your podcast. I'm like, I didn't even know you knew about it, but obviously it's being posted, and they're noticing it. And they will always say something about it or ask about it. I've had people in the past go, hey, why aren't you doing property of the day anymore? I really like looking at those properties. And it's like, oh, I didn't even know you were watching it, but cool. Thanks for watching it, and I'll get back on it. So that's kind of my view on social media. I am no guru. I do kind of do the hashtag stuff. There's some like influencers that you might want to follow because they like study it. Like Cassie was talking about, like, hey, the stuff that she was saying, like, I didn't know that, or I'm finding out about some of those things. And those are good things to know. But for instance, Instagram is focusing more on carousel pictures, multiple pictures that they can flip through rather than just one static picture. And then the question is, are they focusing more on that or reels? Like which one's going to get more views? I don't know. But I think even my wife mentioned that she follows I guess the CEO of Instagram or whatever. And like he like shares insight as to, what they're focusing on, what they're doing, how to grow, etc. But yeah, I mean, even if you're doing 2 posts a week, 3 posts a week, and it's probably good stuff that you're throwing it out there. Sorry, I kind of dominated the microphone. Anybody else do anything like that or different than that, or have questions about any of that? Val, I know you've been pretty darn consistent recently with social media. I think that's probably your strongest point right now is the consistency, right?
Yeah, I think I hate it. I hate social media. It really gives me anxiety. I don't like seeing myself on it, so I try not to get on it and look at my stuff very much, but I knew I needed to do it, or I felt like I needed to do it in order to prove to my sphere, which is really the people that I'm, or at least I think I'm reaching, that this is my new job. Because when I left my previous job, it was kind of a shock to everybody that nobody thought ever I would leave that job. And so I wanted to prove that this was something I was doing. I was going to stick with it. I was going to be good at it, whatever. And so I felt like I needed to post. That's what I was being told. But it's like not fun for me. So I pay to get help on that end, because I know it needs to be done. But I farm it out. I do a lot of my own, but I farm out so that I'm consistent. I farm out a lot of that work, and it doesn't cost me a ton of money, but it makes me very consistent, and I don't have to think of, something out of the box every single time. I don't personally think I need to do more video posts, which again gives me anxiety. I don't, but I know I need to do it. I'm going to get to a point where it's going to be fine. And I'm going to look into one of the suggestions today, doing the video posts. Thank you, Brian, because I know I need to do it, but it's very consistent, but it doesn't have a lot of different types of posts. So that's what I'm working on right now. But I'll tell you, every single day, you're going to see a post from me with either good information or something positive that I'm going to say. And certainly when I do have, good things in real estate to post about, like I'm closing here in the next few weeks on several houses, and I'm under contract with some more, I'll post that on there too, so people can tell that things are happening in the real estate world and I should be your agent, kind of thing. So yeah, that's my secret. It's not very secret. I do farm some of that out to help me be consistent.
No, it's good stuff. And again, like you said, Mark Chambers has preached this from day one: evidence of success, right? Evidence of success. And hey, I just closed, and it shouldn't all be just closed, just listed, just closed, just, house. I should be a good mix, but those are huge because, and I also, again, Ricky Cruth, third time I mentioned him, he says your email campaign that goes out weekly is an extension of your social media. All right. Because believe it or not, there are people that work jobs behind a computer and kind of live on email. And that's how they take things in, and that's how they hear about things or stay up to date. And then there's other people that don't do anything with email, do everything on social media, everything on Instagram, everything on Facebook, everything on LinkedIn or whatever. So it's trying to make sure that you're covering all of those spaces, at least on some kind of level. All right. So that you're touching those people and staying in front of those people consistently. Yeah. I think the consistency, when did you start being pretty consistent with that, Val? Probably this year or late last year?
Late last year, because I had time, because I wasn't as busy as I was now. I was like, I need to do something to rev up, production. And so that was something that people were constantly telling me to do. And so I started doing it myself, and it was just taxing. So then I really looked into getting some help, and kind of late last year is when I really started getting consistent.
I guarantee you, if you look at your closings and your successes from then to now, I'm sure a lot of it could be accredited to some of that, just being in front of your sphere, for sure. It does take a lot of time. I mean, I'm trying to be consistent, and it just depends. Everybody's schedule's so different. Like Val is dropping off her kids in the morning, doing this. It's different schedules. My schedule is a little bit more open. So I mean, it takes me like minimum 45 minutes to an hour to post to all those things that I just said, and I look at it and go, man, this sucks, but it's kind of a necessity for me, in my opinion. All right. And then, and I also go, hey, I'm a full-time agent. I can knock this out for 1 hour and I still have like the rest of the day to do what I need to do. Right. So it's just that's kind of how I look at it. But I appreciate you sharing. Any questions as we wrap up here? 10 minutes over, so we'll get going. Any questions, comments? I appreciate all of y'all being on. Just quick announcements. Next Thursday is happy hour 4 to 6. And then I have to double check the date for the espresso. Let's see if I have it on here real quick. That's also coming up. I do plan on tentatively doing this live, doing this training, this type of training live next month. So Mark, I'd like to talk to you about that. And I've already talked to Shane about probably doing it at his office. So this is the month of April. And I think, yeah, right here on April 11th is the espresso. And then we also have our happy hour on the 28th. So they're usually 2 weeks apart. And this will be moved right now to the 27th. So more than likely, we're probably going to be doing the next Zoom training is not next week because we have the happy hour. It's the week after, so the 6th. And we got Randy Boulay, it looks like, coming into town for that. So those are just some announcements of some upcoming events and some trainings. So check out the podcast. If you missed me next week or want to learn some more about real estate and tips and tricks, I'm actually going to be interviewing Eddie Hernandez next week with Thrive Mortgage. He's going to be talking a little bit about the process of buying, selling, interest rates, all those good things. So check that out and let me know what you think. Thanks for being here, guys.